Speaking with our MD, Nick Tulloch, this morning. Nick, good morning.
Morning, Andrew. How are you?
Yeah, good, Nick. Good to be speaking. Look, this decision here announced on Friday to cancel the option over the Hurricane project in Queensland may have come as a surprise to some, but just run us through the thinking here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Hurricane's obviously been a big feature of the strategy over the last few months, and I appreciate some investors probably will have sort of sat up a bit and thought, what on earth are these guys up to? But really, it comes down to value. I don't know. By way of analogy, I sell you a Ferrari for $50,000. That's a pretty good deal. I sell you a Ferrari for $5 million. Maybe not such a good deal. I mean, it's still the same car. It's still a good car, but the value is just not there. And I think that's really how we felt with Hurricane. There's a lot of benefit in that project, and clearly the team spent a lot of time looking at it. But compared to the price that was proposed and the size versus ECR itself, it just didn't make sense. I mean, on some metrics, it would have been a reverse takeover. Now, I wouldn't shy away from doing the deal because it's a reverse takeover. I made a career out of helping companies do reverse takeovers, but it's an additional cost, it's an additional time period for the company. But overall, it's the price, and we just felt that Hurricane was going to be way too big in proportion to ECR, and as I say, just a little bit overpriced, and so it was time to look elsewhere.
And of course, we've got the Conpering Project, 120 square kilometres next door of a similar geological setting.
You're absolutely right. So we've applied for a license of the neighbouring property, Conpering. It's 2.5 times the size. It's got very similar geological traits. The cost of going into Conpering versus the cost of going into Hurricane, I mean, the two aren't even comparable. So we feel, I wouldn't necessarily say, we've got an immediate replacement, but we've got something that looks like it could be a potential replacement. And with the data we've looked at so far, and again, looking at the pricing, and I always sound very Scottish at this point. I'm always very fearful of spending money, and I'm sort of very focused on shareholder value. It was really a no-brainer. There's a lot of value upside in Conpering. Hurricane, slightly different, as I said earlier.
So, Nick, where do you reckon this leaves, say, Lulworth and the wider Queensland strategy?
I mean, I would say it's unchanged. I had a quick look at the bulletin boards before you and I started talking this morning, and there's a few comments about the guys are going back to Victoria. I mean, that almost sounds like sort of a title to a film. We're not going back to Victoria. We're looking at what we have on the books, which is a very wide portfolio of assets. Lulworth, I think, has got a huge amount of upside. Conpering that we just spoke about. I also wouldn't rule out looking at other things as well. One of the peculiarities, I suppose, of a new management team coming in is you start to attract attention. And between Mike and I, we've already had a number of inbound phone calls from people suggesting various things. Now, again, I'm not going to say all of them are good. I'm not going to say we're even going to return every phone call. But what we're seeing is a number of other opportunities. And coupling that with what I said before about shareholder value and maximising our returns, this is not a story about retrenching back to Victoria. This is a story about looking for sensible assets where we can make a decent return that may well be in Queensland, may well be elsewhere. But the idea is to look for the best possible geological opportunities for the company.
And Nick, of course, just a word on this, we had the cancellation of director share options also announced on Friday. Just tell us a bit more about the significance and the timing.
Well, it's something we've had in mind for a while. Again, as you'd expect of a new management team, Mike and I have come in and we're doing a wee bit of housekeeping. It's rather like sort of changing football managers. The new manager comes in, he's got a different style and different way of doing things. And Mike and I have seen that in ourselves in the way we've approached things. The existing share options or the share options we cancelled, they're a long way north of the current share price, which is unfortunate for those who hold it. You included, of course, Andrew. But it doesn't make an awful lot of sense. It's not an incentivization. It's just an overhang. So this is the right time, with Hurricane put to bed, so to speak. This is the right time to do a little bit of housekeeping and just remove some unnecessary options. We've already gone through the process as part of the subscription of aligning directors' interests with shareholders. A number of directors, again, you included, took a salary sacrifice. Mike and I are very much incentivized and remunerated on a upside-only basis. And this was the time to realign the share options as well. So it's something that's been planned for a while. It wasn't sort of an idea late on a Friday afternoon, let's put this out. It's just part of the housekeeping we've been looking at. Not everything we do is going to be announceable, but as Mike and I go through the company bit by bit, we are going to just point things in a direction we think are more appropriate. again, I'm known for sort of being very interested in cost and not spending money. We've also got to look at the upside and look at the opportunities to expand our portfolio of activities. And so I think we'll see a little bit more of that as we go forward.
And Nick, as you say, we are seeing some interest in what we're up to, both in Queensland and Victoria. You and Mike now more than a couple of weeks into your roles. How are you feeling? What's your attitude now towards ECR?
Yeah, I'm feeling very good, actually. We're probably reaching the end of the period where we can say we're quite new directors. We don't really understand the answer to that question. I think we're sort of feet fully under the desk. And I think when you and I last spoke, I said we were blessed with a very wide portfolio of assets and a lot of opportunity to look at. Yeah, and I absolutely stand by that. As I mentioned before, we're getting a few inbound calls as well on additional things to address. And what we're seeing is a small company with a very wide portfolio, a good team, a very capable team, both in the UK and in Australia. There's a few things we want to adjust. We touched on options a few minutes ago, and there's behind the scenes. I'm sort of meddling on some of the sort of the minor costs that the business incurs. But overall, I think we've got a good platform. And that's important. We've got a supportive shareholder base, and that was evident in the subscription. So keep an eye on things, and I suspect what will happen over the next few months is we'll continue to put out news flow, which I hope will be very positive. We'll continue to examine the portfolio and see where we can realise the best upside. Now we go back to what I said about Hurricane. For me, it's all about value. Good projects can be overpriced. Bad projects, we probably leave to one side. But it's about finding the right opportunity at the right price for the company.
Nick, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.